Hello viewers and welcome back to Dukascopy TV. Up next in the studio, I'm joined by Ulrich Hoffmann of UNCTAD to discuss the Trade and Environment Review of 2013. Ulrich, thank you very much for coming in and joining us today.
It's a pleasure.
Now, the report is called Wake Me Up Before It's Too Late and looks at what is needed to make agriculture truly sustainable for food security in a changing climate. Can you tell us more about this report?
The reason why we put out this report is basically that we have the feeling that agriculture and the challenges in agricultural development are one of the most important topics in this century. So we are persuaded that it's not energy, but it is food and the agro-food sector. And what we mean by that is that we see a major economic crisis or food security issue. We see a serious environmental crisis in agriculture. And we see, in fact, a political and social problem because the scarcity of land, water will lead, and food will lead to huge migratory movements and therefore political tension. So this is the background against which we have looked at agriculture, and this all then put into the context of the challenges arising from a changing climate.
There is a call for a greater understanding of the multifunctionality of agriculture. Can you tell us a little bit more about the approach that's needed for that?
Multifunctionality in agriculture basically means that a farmer is not only a producer of agricultural goods, but also a manager of an agroecological system. And this management is very important because true sustainability in agriculture means to preserve the reproductive function of this agroecological system. So what is required is not only to look at the production function on production conditions, but also supportive flanking measures, such as resource endowment, the biodiversity, water, the interplay between these factors, and all of that, of course, then under a changing climate and resource challenges. So basically, this needs to be looked at in a very holistic way, not only from the point of view of a commercial product.
Food prices between 2011 to mid-2013 were almost 80% higher than the period from 2003 through to 2008. What are your greatest concerns for food prices and food security? And do you believe that food prices are set to come down, or are they yet to push higher still, really?
As far as the food price development is concerned, recently and in recent months, food prices have eased somewhat, but only slightly. But basically all observers are united in the belief that we are looking at a period over the next 2-3 decades of rising prices. One of the principal reasons is that the inputs of agricultural production have increased at a greater dynamic than the output prices. So farmers are basically put in a treadmill, and you can only get out of that by increasing the scale or by, in fact, developing new products. The serious challenge we are facing is, in fact, that agriculture is the single biggest contributor to global climate change. And it is also mainly been, or the sector which is crucially affected. So as a matter of fact, most projections see on average declines of anything between in production between 30 and 50%. There will be parts of notably Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, where agricultural production in about 30, 40 years from now might no longer be possible at all.
You touched there on sub-Saharan Africa, and climate change is set to have a huge impact on agriculture in developing countries where the highest future population growth, as you mentioned, sub-Saharan Africa and South Asia also. The report says the fundamental transformation of agriculture may well turn out to be one of the biggest challenges of the 21st century. How, in your view, can we overcome this major challenge? And also, similarly, what other concerns do we face, really?
I would see the major challenge in agriculture is really to make agricultural production more resilient, so adaptable to drastically changing circumstances under climate change. And let's face it, we are no longer talking about a 2-degree global warming scenario, but anything between 3 and 4 degrees. That, for agriculture, is sort of a quantum leap. So against this very background, what is required is to look at the serious and deep-rooted structural problems of agriculture, global agriculture, and to go beyond a mere production-focused approach, because many observers just predict that we need to jack up production by about 50 to 70% to feed a 50% rise in global population. Yet, under current circumstances, we are already producing sufficient food, calorie-wise, for a global population of anything between 12 and 30 billion. So what is required is one needs to revisit the sort of production methods. So we need to have a greater focus on agroecological production methods, which are very resilient, very flexible, and very resource efficient. Secondly, we need to emphasize much more the importance of smallholders, so small farmers, which in fact produce up to 70% of global food. So it's not international supply chains, but really these small farmers. And thirdly, we need to attract much more attention to agriculture. By way of illustration, agriculture in virtually any developing country, including China, accounts for anything between 40 and up to 80% of the employed population, so of total employment. And in most developing countries, agriculture also accounts for about 50 to 70% of total production. So the fact of the matter is, however, agriculture gets less than 5% of total public investment. So this needs to change. So agriculture needs to be recognized as a crucial sector for development, and now under climate change also of strategic importance. And as you may have seen at the just concluded talks of the Doha round in Bali, food security came out as one of the topical issues. So that tells you how important that story is, and we need to look at that in a much more, let's say, colorful, multifaceted way. And what we have done in the paper, in our report, is more than 60 international experts looked at all the various facets of the challenge, and we have tried to come up with, I would say, conclusions and forward-looking suggestions, which I think are worth reading.
Ulrich, thank you so much for coming in and sharing your expertise on this matter.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
It may be the holiday season, but the Dukascopy TV team continues to bring you all the very latest in FX news and financial hot topics. From me, it's goodbye for now.